30 days ago, I put 12 plants from plants in a box into semi-hydroponics. No grow tent, living room shelf only, going into winter. Let's see who made it. I've grouped these 12 plants into 5 clear sections. 4 winners are plants that genuinely thrived, 2 steady, boring in the best possible way, and the 2 that have me a little bit confused. I'll tell you about what I think is happening, but I'm not really quite sure, and 2 where I genuinely got it wrong. One of them is really gonna make me eat my words on camera, and the last 2 I still can't really, I don't know what the heck. I just don't know. Anyway, you're gonna have to wait and see what those are. Let's start with the clear winners. This is my little Aglaonema dang Mongkol. Look at that gorgeous beauty. This one did exactly what I told you it would do. It looks absolutely amazing. I took this plant out of the soil, washed the roots and put it straight into Leca. I used the direct method for this one, and looking at this little pot here, I can tell you right now that this is a submerged method. I also did put a little bit, I put that susty in there as well. Now this is really interesting because this susty is white. It's actually telling me that the root ball is not as moist as I would like it to be. So it'll be quite interesting to see what's happening. But all in all, this plant has done really, really well. There was a leaf that was unfurling at the time I transitioned it, and I'm wondering whether that's what this one is. I'm not quite sure. I have to look at the old footage to see, but we can definitely see there's a new leaf there that is just coming through, looking absolutely glorious. Now, when I pick up this pot, you can see that there's actually water in that reservoir. So I'm not really sure that that susty is doing the job that it's supposed to be doing there. That is a bit, I'm not very clear. I think for this one, for the Aglaonema, I don't think the susty is working really well. Now I'm looking to see if I can see any roots there. I can't really, I mean, I can see that one over there, but that looks like it might be the older roots. That's also an older root. So I'm not really too sure that there's been too much root action going on, but I don't need to see new roots on the outside of the pot to know that this plant is doing well. That new leaf is telling me everything, and it's looking really, really good. So yes, that is my Aglaonema, which is a clear winner for this category. Next up is my Crocodile fern, looking gorgeous. This plant made me change my mind about something. It looks really, really good. As you can see, for a fern, we would have expected a lot more leaf loss, a lot more crispy leaves, but this is not what happened here. So for this particular plant, I actually took it out of the soil and I washed the roots. I washed the roots and I used the Leafy Brand pond. So I didn't put it in Leca. I put this one in a mineral blend substrate. And you can see here that that susty is actually quite blue. So that's telling me that the root ball is moist, and it's good feedback because my reservoir is actually empty. So it's really interesting to see that that's telling me that that's moist. And when I sort of touch that, it is actually wet at the bottom. So I think that susty is doing its job in that pond substrate. It really, really is. It's telling me that it's moist. So maybe it might be worth using a susty if you're using a mineral-based substrate as opposed to Leca. I don't know. We've only seen one plant, so not sure what's going on there. But you can see, just look at those leaves there. It's looking really, really good. There's not too much root action going on. It's still quite new in there. So yeah, I mean, I'm really happy with how this plant has gone. And the thing that was, when I took the plant out of this box, when I did the unboxing, I did say that it was going to be really crucial to keep the humidity up for this particular plant. And because, of course, as you know, for all these plants, for plants in a box, I did not use a grow tent at all. All these plants have been living out in my home ambient humidity conditions, probably about 50 or 60%, maybe even less. And I did not use a humidity dome for this one because I couldn't find my humidity dome, and I, at the end of the day, just couldn't be bothered to start looking and trying things because the other one that I had was too small for it, and I just decided to wing it, and woo, that is definitely a gamble that paid off. Now, would I recommend that you don't use a humidity dome when you're transitioning a fern? Definitely not. I would not be doing this again, but I'm really quite happy that this worked out for this transition, especially when I'm trying to say that, look, I'm not doing anything fancy with the transition. So for my fern, definitely using a mineral blend pond, anything like that. I think that keeps the humidity around the roots a lot more than you would with the Leca substrate, and this worked beautifully. Crocodile fern looking amazing, and that susty 100%. Another winner for this is the little Hypoestes plant. Look at that gorgeous beauty. I am so happy that this plant has done well and has not died. So I washed the plant and I put it directly into Leca. And as you can see, it's in one of my Leafy Brand pot sets. That's the 10 centimeter pot set, which means that this is a little bit of a wick situation going on here. And ooh, look at those roots. Check them out. They are just gorgeous. Look at those roots looking fabulous. The thing I love about this plant right now is it has lost all its little flowers, which was something that we were expecting anyway, but there's new growth. Look, I don't know if you can see that. Just down there, there's some new growth there, and really at the top as well, there is some new growth. That pink is still quite bright. There has been some leaf damage. You can see that one over there. There's some leaf damage there, probably more visible at the back there. Oh, I don't know if you can see that, but I think all in all, this plant has just performed so well. So Hypoestes actually do like to have a lot of humidity. They are native to Madagascar and prefer higher humidity. So I think that's what explains why some of those leaves are looking just a little bit crispy and are not too happy at the moment. So we'll see. The flowers themselves are gone, which is what we expected. And normally when a Hypoestes flowers a lot, it sort of tends to decline. And I'm told that a lot of growers actually pinch the little flowers off so that it stays more making leaves. I don't know. The other thing that it tends to do is it starts to get a little bit leggy. So they, and by leggy, I mean it just starts to get really tall. So they sort of cut off the stems to make it more bushy. So that might be something I might have to do for this particular plant. But look at that gorgeous. Now, this is a plant I am definitely going to be keeping. Okay, this is my lady palm. This is another plant that has actually surprised me and is doing so well. I did not expect that it would look like this at this time point. Look. I am actually quite shocked. I thought all these would have dried up and turned into a crisp, but they haven't. And the susty in this one seems to be working. It's nice and blue there. But then again, maybe this was too high. Maybe that's why it didn't work so well. I don't know. So a susty might work for Leca. The jury's still out. But this one I took out of the soil, washed off the roots, and the roots were so weird. They're so firm and so hard, and I actually had to sort of cut some of them off because it was just a large bunch of roots, and I cut them and I put them in this, and I'm using my Leafy Brand pot set, and obviously this is a wick setup, and I am so happy that that's what I did because clearly that is what this plant needed. And there's not too much going on in the root department, nothing to show there. But I think the fact that the plant is still looking good at this stage is plenty for me. I'm considering this 100% victory. Looking amazing, my lady palm. Okay, now that those 4 are done, let's look at some of the plants that were just really steady and doing exactly what I needed them to do, and no surprises. First one here is this little ficus. This is the Ficus burgundy. Now, this is the plant. When I unboxed it, it had like 8 or 9 little stems in there. So many stems in the one little pot. And I said at the time that this is going to be a problem. I'm going to need to get rid of some of them because they're not all going to thrive in this pot as they are. And so I took the plant out of the soil and washed off the roots, and I separated the stems, and I only kept the bigger 2 and I got rid of the others. And this is where we are at today. And I think that was a really good decision. Maybe, I don't know. Of course, I have no way of knowing whether it would have worked either the other way, but this is good. Both plants are still alive. I put them straight into Leca direct method. And I think this is a submerged setup. And yes, it is a submerged setup. You can see that over there. There is some root action going on. But before we do that, let's talk about the leaves. So this leaf was originally there, and we've got this new little leaf over there. There is a new leaf coming, and it is looking good. Nothing much going on with the smaller one, but I'll come closer and I'll show you something. You can see there's a leaf there, a dried up leaf. That is to be expected. That's not surprising. And that is the newest leaf there, looking gorgeous. And if you look here, right there, that is a new root, looking gorgeous. And you can see there's a little root that is peeking from the bottom there. So all in all, I think this, there's another root there, right there. This plant is looking amazing. I'm happy with how this has gone, and I think the direct method was the best decision for it. There was no need for it to go into the long method, particularly because it's a smaller plant as well. So when you're transitioning smaller plants, they do tend to be a bit more forgiving. And when I say smaller plants, I mean plants like this. I'm not talking about teeny tiny baby plants, which don't have much of a root system. That's a whole other story. Right, let's bring my gorgeous beauty here. This is my Philodendron silver sword. Looking beautiful, doesn't that look like a pretty picture? She's also got a little susty in there. That's a big susty. I really like this white on white combo, and I actually did use a trellis on this. But anyway, I go too quickly. I get ahead of myself. Let me talk about this plant and how things went. So I took that out of the soil and I washed off all the roots and I put it straight into the Leca. No direct method for this one. And I know sometimes people struggle with plants that are like this, putting them directly into Leca, but this one worked really well for me and there were no issues. There's actually been no leaf loss at all with this one, and there's a new leaf coming through there. You can see the little Cinderella effect happening there with that one over there. Now, I haven't seen what's happening with the roots in this plant. This is my first time picking it up, so I'm really curious. Well, I don't see much going on, which is a rather disappointing, but you know, nothing untoward, because we can see the roots of the leaves are growing. The plant feels nice and firm, so things are working. So sometimes you don't necessarily have to see a lot of roots to know that things are working. Also, this is a pretty big pot, so you know, all the roots are probably stuck in the middle. It is in a wick setup over there, and that's working okay. But yeah, I think my little philodendron beauty is looking amazing. That is my philodendron silver sword. Something else to note about this silver sword actually is it is a climbing plant, but I did not use a moss pole. I did not want to use a moss pole for this plant at all, and I used a trellis, and I think it looks gorgeous. I really love this sort of beehive trellis. The design on that matches perfectly how that works. And I specifically got this set to put this plant in because I knew it would make it shine. So all these products are products that I got from the Leafy brand. If you are in Australia, that's where I got them. And I actually did a video where I show the unboxing and I talk a bit more about these products. And if you're interested in them, there is a link in the description. But that is my Philodendron silver sword. So that's the steady plants section done. 2 plants where nothing went wrong, but now we get into the ones where I really can't give you a clean answer. And the next one is growing a baby. It also has brown tips and it's giving me mixed signals. I have no idea which signals to concentrate on. This right here is my Spathoglottis mellow yellow plant. So of course, the first thing to note is that the plant is still alive. Always a win in my book. And of course, the other thing to note is all the little yellow flowers are gone. So these are the flower stalks there. That's where the flowers were attached. That's all dried up. Nothing to report there. And if you take a look at the leaves, you can see that over there, so there's a lot of browning of the tips there. I mean, pretty much very few of them are spared. A lot of them do have the brown tips there. Now, this is something that I'm not very clear about. I'm not sure whether this browning of those leaves is as a result of just the transition itself and you just chalk that up to it's a transition and it's fine, or is it that the nutrient solution that I used for this plant, which is my special source of Clonex clone solution and root zone, was that too concentrated and did it burn the leaves of this plant? If you have any idea about what could possibly be going on here, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But all in all, I think the plant has actually done well in the transition because I did say that it's growing some babies, right? So there's a little section over here, this little one over here, that seems to be a little baby. And there's another one over here. There's a little plantlet over there. That's doing good, okay? And there's a susti in there as well. And that susti is nice and blue. So that susti is working. So susti thing is a little bit hit and miss. And let me see what is going on with the roots. So there is some water in the reservoir. I say water, nutrient solution, not a lot. And because of the type of pot that this nursery pot is sitting in, it's quite snug. There's actually no space. There's no airflow between the pot, the nursery pot, and this. The pot itself, the nursery pot, is quite wet. There's a lot of humidity in there. And that's probably why this susti is still blue, I think. I don't know. But when I look at these roots, okay, I'll come closer and show you because I think there's a little stuff happening. Not a lot, but stuff is happening. Stuff that I need to come so much closer for. So when you look here, this root here, it's fuzzy. So you can see the tip is quite fuzzy. I hope you can see. So there's growth happening there. Oh, there's another one over here. Right there. Just the one that's got, oh, hang on, turning it around the wrong way. There. This one over here, you can see there's a little tip there, right at the tip. That's also fuzzy. There's another one there, fuzzy. There's another one there, fuzzy. So what this is telling me really is that these roots are actually growing and the plant has, I think it has transitioned rather nicely. So there we go. A plant that I wasn't so sure about, but this actually ended up a lot better than I thought it was gonna, aside from what's happening with those leaves. So hit me up if you know what's happening, please. Next up is my absolute favorite. This is the goldfish plant. Now, the most obvious thing here is that all the goldfish are gone, right? We kind of expected that. So you can see they're all sort of dried off there. we expected that. And like the others for this particular plant, I took the plant out of the soil, washed the roots, and I put it directly into Leca. So this went straight into Leca. And for this particular one, actually, I did something a bit different. So I put a susty in there and I put a water level indicator. So the water level indicator is actually telling me that there is nutrient solution in that reservoir and the susty is blue. So they seem to be saying the same thing. So this is an experiment I'll keep doing just so I can see whether what the susty is telling me is the same as what the water level indicator is telling me. Although, you know, when you really think about it, it can't be the same. I'm trying to see if I can get it as close enough as I can. But there we go. The leaves are looking okay. They're firm. They're very firm. Actually, the leaves of these little plant are quite firm. So I like the fact that they're firm. They've got a lot of, you know, the turgor pressure in there is quite good. So the roots are actually doing what they should be doing, because remember, there is no grow tent here. Although there has been leaf loss, you know, that is a leaf, a dry leaf there. And when I look all around this plant, I cannot see any roots that are peeking through anywhere. So clearly, making of roots is still ongoing for this particular plant, and 30 days is clearly not enough to see what it's going to be. Oh, hang on. I see something. Hang on. I see something. There are some grow points that are activating there, right there. Right. Oh, it's really hard for me to show you. Whew. I need a macro lens, which I don't have. Right there, there's some growth happening. I think this plant is going to do really well, actually. So yeah, submerged setup, Bob's your uncle. It is absolutely loving it. And now we get to the plant I was absolutely wrong about, and I am going to be eating my words. And in here is, this is the Calathea elliptica. I said this plant would be fine in Leca using the direct method. I was wrong, and I'm going to show you. It has been my absolute worst, one of my worst performers. It's not the worst performer, but it's one of my absolute worst performers. And I am owning the fact that I could have done this differently. I really could have. Now, I said direct method would be fine. I said putting it directly in Leca would be fine. What I did not like to have to do is not to use a grow tent and not give it supplemental lighting, because these are things that I would be doing if I was doing a normal Calathea, but I didn't have the luxury to do it this time. And as you can see for yourselves, there are a lot of crispy leaves there. Look at that. Look at that. Things are not looking good. And I did try. I tried, you know, this is a little humidity dome that I got from IKEA. It works really well. You know, you put your plant there and you put it like that. I like to leave it, you know, leave a little bit of air just for some airflow. But even that really could not save this plant at all. Could not save it. Could not save it. And looking at the roots, not much is happening. So for this plant, I took it out of the soil, I washed the roots, and I put it directly in the Leca. And man, oh man, look at those curly leaves. It just looks awful. I did warn you guys. I did say to you when I unboxed it, this is probably the best you're going to see this plant looking. It looks really awful. So what could I have done differently? So if I wasn't going to put it in a grow tent, I probably should have put it in the pond. That would have helped things a lot, you know, like what happened with the fern. That would have helped things a lot. And maybe used my heat mat. I did not use a heat mat either. It's really cold now in Melbourne. So, you know, trying to do this in the way that I did was really very ambitious on my part. And I should have known that this is what was going to happen. But in the spirit of the experiment, I went ahead and I did it. Let me come closer. Look at all that. Nothing in the roots, but my gosh. The plant looks awful, but anyway, what can I do? What can I do? So yeah, I mean, this is why we do these experiments, right? This is why we show you these things. And so when you are doing your soil to Leca transitions for your Calathea and it comes off looking like this and you think you are a failure, no, you are not. Some plants just don't take very well to the direct method, doing it like this. It's not really ideal for a plant like this. So yeah, like I said, I would probably use pon instead of Leca. I would make sure it's got high humidity. Light as well is a really, really important aspect when you're transitioning plants from soil to Leca. And right now, the light in my home, without a grow light, no grow tent, is not the best. So I am not surprised that this happened. Am I disappointed? Yes. Am I surprised? No. This is my Philodendron tortum. This plant has seen better days, and I kind of saw this coming. The newest leaf when I got this plant, that's it, that is kind of gone. And actually, I'm not sure if that was the newest leaf. I don't think that was the newest leaf. That was probably the newest leaf over there. So that was one of the older leaves that was crisping. So all right, that's not bad. It's not as bad as I thought it would be. So that was the newest leaf. It broke a little bit, I think, when I was doing the transition. So that's not surprising. So this one. Washed the plant, took it out of the soil and put it directly into Leca. And just by looking at this pot, it's telling me that I did a wick setup. And of course, Philodendron tortum is a climbing plant, but I'm using one of these grid trellises from the Leafy Brand. I love how this trellis looks. And I have no idea what's happening in the root department. Not much yet. That is the little wick going there, and there is a new leaf coming through over there, so there is some growth happening. The susti is looking a little bit blue, not as blue as the other Leca plant, but blue nonetheless. So I don't know. I mean, this Philodendron tortum is just meh. I'm not sure if maybe putting it in pon might have been a way to go, or maybe even using the long method would have actually meant that this plant would have looked better than it does right now. But all in all, I mean, I say it's a bit meh, but you know, I think this is what a plant of this type can look like when you're doing a direct transition. So yeah, I mean, the roots were quite small, so yeah, it's watching and waiting. We'll see what happens. Next up is my Thor Cecile. This plant looked amazing when I just unboxed it. It's alive, but I genuinely can't tell you if it's happy, quite honestly. The flowers are gone, and I think it is less green, to be quite honest. And, you know, at the time I was doing the transition, I was actually upset about the fact that I would have to be doing that when the plant was in flower, and I thought that something bad was going to happen, and I was correct. Of course, all the flowers fell off as predicted. And I did wash the plant completely and I put it directly in Leca. Now, if it wasn't for the fact that this was a kind of 30-day challenge, I probably wouldn't have put it in Leca. Maybe I would have put it in pon and used a wick. I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, I don't have enough experience with plants like this to sort of have an idea of what I would have done, to be quite honest. And I did put it in a wick setup because I think it probably needs less than more hydration. So even the pon idea might have been a bad one, actually. But yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. It seems firm enough. There's not much happening in the root department. The roots were quite tiny, so I'm not surprised that I haven't seen anything yet. But yeah, I don't know. I'll come closer and show it to you. So that's the close-up of the plant. You can see it looks well enough on its own, and I think it is starting to get some new flower buds there, possibly like right there. It looks like the flowers might be coming back, but I don't know. I'm just not sure what's happening with this one. Not sure at all. I think time will tell. This is my Bougainvillea Magenta Glory. Wow. Take a look at that little stick figure. All, and I mean all, the leaves are gone. There was a lot of leaf loss. They all just dropped off like there's no tomorrow. And yeah, I'm not sure whether this is something that is seasonal or something that is to do with the transition, or, you know, maybe the plant needed more humidity. I will never know. And what I did do with this plant is I washed the plant and I put it directly into the Leca, and you can see by the fact that it's this pot, it is in a wick setup as well. So I didn't put too much. There you go. But I don't know what's happening. I can't see any roots there. So I'm not sure whether the leaves are going to come back as the plant stabilizes, assuming it's actually going to grow more or not. I don't know. I would have loved to, if it wasn't for this, I would have probably put the plant in a grow tent, given it lots of light. That also controls the temperature as well, being in the grow tent. But then I couldn't put it in the grow tent, and that's how things went. I did want to actually get another Bougainvillea and transition it the way I would have wanted to transition it, in a grow tent, and control all the parameters just to see what was going to happen. But I couldn't find one. I don't know whether this is just not the season for them, but maybe it's just too cold here. There was no Bougainvillea to be found. The only ones I could find were from Plants in a Box, and Plants in a Box sell them at, you know, 6 in a box. And I wasn't about to buy that many plants. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens with this one. The little susty is nice and blue, so that's good. But I'm really hopeful that as it gets warmer and spring comes around, I might start to get little leaves coming on that stick that is calling itself my Magenta glory right now. So I am not giving up on this plant just yet. So for all these plants from Plants in a Box, I think 30 days is not enough. A 30-day update is not enough. I'm going to follow all these plants, and I will come back after 6 months after transition, and I will show you what they're doing, because the season is wrong. The transitions were far from ideal for some of these plants, and I think there is a life in them yet. Plants like this one, I think, will do well given time, and I want you to see what that's going to look like. So yeah, watch this space. Which plant surprised you most? And if you've ever had a plant completely drop every leaf after transition, tell me in the comments, because I need to know I'm not alone on that Bougainvillea. So that's 30 days. 4 clear winners, 2 steady, 2 complicated, 2 that I got wrong, and 2 that I'm not really sure about yet. The real verdict, that will have to come at 6 months. I'll see you then.